Before we jump into the specifics of each nest building block, let's take a step back and talk about a few approaches we can take to bind any of these building blocks to different parts of our application. Basically, there are 3 different ways of binding filters, guards, and interceptors to our route handlers, with a bonus 4th way that's specific to pipes. Nest building blocks can be globally scoped, controller scoped, method scoped, and the bonus 4th one, param scoped, which, as we said, is available to pipes only. Note that these different binding techniques give you granularity and control at different levels in your application. Each one does not override another, but rather layers each one on top. So be careful in how you implement these. For example, if you have a globally scoped pipe, it will be applied as well as any other you might add, whether it's controller scoped, method scoped, etc. So far in this course, we've already seen globally scoped pipes in action when we use the validation pipe to help us validate incoming request payloads, amongst other things. If we open up our main TS file, we'll see that we previously bound the validation pipe globally by calling the useGlobalPipes method of our app instance. You can see that if we type app.use, IntelliSense shows us corresponding methods for every other building block available here, respectively useGlobalPipes, useGlobalGuards, useGlobalInterceptors, and useGlobalFilters. Going back to our validation pipe here, one big limitation of setting it up and instantiating it by ourselves like this is that we cannot inject any dependencies here since we're setting it up outside of the context of any Nest.js module. So how do we work around this? One option we have is to set up a pipe directly from inside a Nest module using the custom provider-based syntax we saw in earlier lessons. Let's open up our app module file and define something called the app pipe provider. This app pipe provider is a special token exported from the Nest.js core package. Providing validation pipe in this manner lets Nest instantiate the validation pipe within the scope of the app module, and once created, registers it as a global pipe. Note that there are also corresponding tokens for every other building block feature, such as app interceptor, app guard, and app filter. Back to our validation pipe. What if we don't want to use it globally, but somewhere more specific, like on a certain controller? Let's imagine that we want to bind a validation pipe to every route handler defined only within our Coffees controller. Let's open up our Coffees controller file and make use of a new decorator, usePipes, that we haven't seen yet. This usePipes decorator can be passed in a single pipe class or a comma-separated list of pipe classes. Just like in other scenarios, there are also corresponding decorators for every other building block that can be used here as well, named useInterceptors, useGuards, and useFilters. Alternatively, you can even pass an instance of a class here. Take, for example, providing new validation pipe inside of the decorator. This is super useful when you want to pass in a specific configuration object to the validation pipe for this exact scenario. Note that as a best practice, try to apply filters by using classes instead of instances whenever possible. This reduces memory usage since Nest can easily reuse instances of the same class across your entire module. All building blocks can also be method scoped. Imagine that you want to bind a pipe to a specific route. We can achieve this by simply applying the same decorator we just saw, usePipes, but on top of the specific method we want to declare it on. Let's say we want to add specific validation to our getFindAll method within Coffees controller. With this set up, this validation pipe is only applied to this single findAll route handler. We are already familiar with the three different ways of tying filters, guards, pipes, and interceptors to our route handlers. But as we said, there is a fourth bonus way that's only available to pipes, and it's called param-based scope. Param-scoped pipes are useful when the validation logic concerns only one specific parameter. Let's scroll down to the update method here. This method takes two arguments, the resource ID as well as the payload required to update the existing entity. What if we want to bind a pipe to the body of the request, but not the ID parameter? This is exactly where the param-based pipe comes in handy. By passing the validation pipe class reference directly to the body decorator here, we can let Nest know to run this particular pipe exclusively for just this specific parameter. And there we have it. With these four powerful building blocks, we can now control the flow, content, validation on anything in our application globally, all the way down to a specific controller, method, or even a parameter.